Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. My name is One of One, but you can call me Seven. And Alco and Alice have sort of laid down the law now. We know where we stand, and now it's time for us to see how Shizuki's life with them is going to unfold. Because now he's back at school and we've resumed some semblance of normalcy, as it were. Now he's asking fellas for help about how to make girls like him, which is just him trying to figure out how to make Alice like him so that she doesn't kill him on a whim because she's irritated. Because these girls are much more dangerous than they seem initially. Because they have ownership over the entire city. Fun fact, I found out last episode. I think that was last episode. So anyway, let's get started, see what's going on. Okay, I remember now. So I just needed to take a second to think. But the last thing that happened is that Alco and Shizuki were having a conversation when she was walking him to school because she was worried that Alice might jump him, which is wild. That he's now he's fully committed to try to figure out like, hey, if I show this girl enough goodwill and I am kind enough, the other party must feel obligated to do so at some point. And so he's like, that's the key. I can do that. As long as I do that, everything's gonna be totally fine. And he compared it to like something that happened in the mountains where he left food for an animal and it didn't bother him again. I went back and read a little bit too. So Alco is more worried for his safety than ever. And now he's at school, I think. You're looking for a broom like the ones at school? Ah, a new character. She's short. Look at her. She's cute. We haven't seen this girl before, have we? No, we have no idea who she is. Yeah, the cheaper the better. Don't you live in an apartment? Who needs a broom in an apartment? Well, you know, I've been wanting to clean things up a little. I could use some trash bags too. Aren't you supposed to be broke or something? Whatever. Want to use my broom then? I'll lend it to you if you want. Actually, I need it for longer than one day, so maybe it's best I buy my own. I mean, I always wanted my own broom. Brooms are nice to have around, you know? Is this what passes for small talk these days? Sojiro was on his way home from his part-time job after school, I see. It was 4 in the afternoon, 2 hours earlier than his part-time job would have normally ended. The Mad Bear's head chef had gotten in trouble with the accountant for making a student work the day before exams. Thus, Sojiro's boss had tearfully sent him home early. And that is when it happened. The interruption to a standard schedule must have been just the shock he needed. Normally, he would meet up with Alco after she was done with student council affairs and go home with her. However, today, Sojiro was asking the other students who worked at the same place if they knew any shops in the area where he could buy a broom. God, what's wrong with you? People from the countryside are like, so weird. Anyway, you know that nasty ramen place near school? Just go to the end of that street and there's a hardware store called Okita. It's way cheaper than the home supply store at the west of the station as long as they have what you want anyway. Use my bicycle if you want. I don't care. I won't need until the exams are over anyway. This girl's a homie. She's acting kind of like, but she's kind of a homie. Soldier's eyes lit up as if he had met his savior, but biking uphill to the mansion, let alone with a package to carry, was not a pretty thought. I appreciate the offer, but I'll pass. See you at school tomorrow. Saying farewell to his coworkers, he headed to the hardware store. He needed a cheap and sturdy bamboo broom and a large dustpan to go with it. If possible, a pushcart and stick for a splint would have been nice too. As it happened, Sojiro wanted quite a few things. Has he got the money for it? He probably does. He's been doing part-time jobs for a while now. He's definitely a hard worker. And he also works all the time. Alice returned to her work after waking up from her nap. Okay, we're back in Magic World. The Kuonji estate had an annex that housed a library. The library was filled with books handed down to her from her mother, so it was Alice's territory such that even Alco dared not enter. If the mansion was a witch's abode left behind by the times, the library was a fairy tale quarters, lost to the ages. It was a natural sanctuary for the young witch who could not command ploys, or who could command ploys to do her bidding. She relied on her memory to recall the location of each book on the many shelves, and then she saw it. Upon raising her head, she was met with the most unusual of sights. Her elegant eyebrows bristled in distaste. From that moment on, she failed to accomplish anything she had planned for that day. She was instead forced to stare at the strange sight outside her window, eyebrows fixed in that position until the sun set, which is it our boy cleaning? Come on now, tell me, show me. Let me see that earnest face of his. He's gonna try his best. He's gonna try his damnedest, all right? It'll be fine. Alice isn't gonna kill him. Come on, let's be real. He's gonna win her over like he has with Alco. Ah, well. Moving into the Grand Mansion on the hill had not brought any major changes to Sojiro's day-to-day schedule. He woke up, went to his part-time job, ate breakfast, and went to school. Classes came and went, still strange and new, broken up by rare and brief moments of rest until the school day ended. He left school, went to his part-time job, slept, woke up, and studied for exams. There we go. A modest life for a modest young man, continuing every day in the same fashion despite his best efforts to change his fortune. But nothing ever really changes. Whether Aoko was by his side in the mansion, as was frequently the case, or whether Alice was making him drink some potion she prepared before going to bed. The former was an attempt by Aoko to make him feel better. The latter was some attempt to keep him safe, even if he did not fully appreciate it. Then one day, a day like any other, while Sojourner was pouring himself some tea as he worried over the lack of change in his life. Oh, by the way, his relationship with Alice was the same as ever, but there was one major change this morning. He was drinking black tea instead of green. Though there were all sorts of different types of tea to be found in the kitchen, a newcomer to the world of tea like Sojiro could not tell one of them from the next. Naturally, his tea-making skills were limited to tea bags, one of which he placed in his cup before returning to the dining table. Alice and Aoko were already seated, and the two were eating in silence as is usual. In this household, it was everyone for themselves when it came to breakfast. The diplomatic description of their breakfast would be simple, air quotes. The more accurate description would be 2 slices of stale bread prepared in seconds. Come on, guys. You live like this? In a mansion? Come on. Aoko exchanged a word or two with Alice, took a sip of tea, and stood up from her seat. Since it was winter break for the high schooler Alice, she returned to her room after eating as she normally did while Aoko headed to the front door, shoes in hand, ready for school. After hurriedly clearing the table, Sojiro rushed out the door after Aoko. Together they walked down the long hill in the direction of school. Routine, slice of life almost, if you will. They had spent 3 days following this very simple routine. So, any word on you-know-who? School had ended and evening had arrived. Buttered bread roll in one hand, Alice replied with a simple, silent shake of her head. Thought so. Enemy must be considering the next move too. Have you figured out where the mage is? Her response was exactly the same. Without showing the slightest sign of dejection, she continued to chew the roll and took a stab at her salad. Okay then. I'll help you once exams are over if you can manage on your own till then. I have to help that idiot study, so my schedule is pretty warped. Alice's face grew dour, as if she had something to get off her chest. Oh, what did she say? Don't give me that look. You're on winter break. You can spend all day working on it, can't you? Alice was indeed on vacation and could spend all day every day on her work as a mage. Yet she had spent the past few days holed up in the library instead. She was hardly devoting herself to dealing with the challenger, as Aoko put it. Alice, are you listening? Yes, I'll get to work on it tonight. Sighing, she stood up. What was bothering Alice and what was it she wanted to say? What had she been doing only 2 hours earlier? The young witch took her leave from the breakfast table without offering a single clue. So, okay, this is really interesting because, again, with the power scaling, I have no idea how dangerous these threats are to Alice and Aoko. The way that the land was described, the mansion was described, it's like it's a piece of land, unaffiliated, that can be snatched up by any other mage if they have the opportunity to do so. Because it's like a good base of operations. It's a good place to hone your craft, keep yourself safe, away from other mages, and practice magic and magecraft, 2 separate things, even though we haven't really had that explained to us yet. But now people are trying to like encroach on their territory, especially because these two have been assigned control of the whole city, or like jurisdiction of the whole city, even though they're not part of the association. Okay, I'm here. You are also here. You're following, right? You guys got this. Yasaki High was a private school, and as such, its winter break started earlier than public schools. The end of term ceremony was in mid-December, followed by a brief respite before the next term began. Of course, that was if, and only if, they overcame the classic obstacle lying between them and an extended break from school. Final exams. The radio continued its broadcast late into the night. A thermos of hot tea eliminated the need to venture down to the kitchen. An electric blanket kept away the winter cold, and a crab-shaped pastry staved off any dinnertime hunger. These were the lengths Aoko had gone to. She needed to ensure that every aspect of her surroundings helped her pull a successful all-nighter. Congrats on surviving the first day of exams. Are you ready to leave your old study habits behind and be reborn as a new student? Sojiro nodded earnestly. Upon returning from work, he encountered not the mage he expected, but the Demon Student Council President Alzaki. Half a day earlier. The first day of exams were over, and Sojiro was about to head back to the mansion where he hoped to put his plan into practice when... Tonight, I'm holding you prisoner. Your grades are simply unacceptable. Cancel your shift and any other plans you have. A cold blue grin greeted him in the hallway. Clenched in her fist was Sojiro's exam paper. Mr. Yamashita had no doubt said, He only just transferred. We can't expect miracles. But she had snatched the exam out of the teacher's hands the minute he tried to show her. That was how Sojiro had ended up in Aoko's room instead of the room in the attic to which he was accustomed. Though her situation was far from normal, at the end of the day, she was an adolescent girl like any other. Naturally, she felt uncomfortable letting a boy her own age into her room. However, his grades were surely something that called for desperate measures. That explained why her mood was even worse than normal today and why the vein on her forehead was pulsing visibly with anger. Casual Aoki. Cursed. I need to finish my own studies. You can use the table in the meantime. Favorite desk. Okay. Oh. New music, I think? Yes, I think so. Sojiro was left standing before a cheap-looking glass table. Not used to all this. What was that? What's that blue thing over there? The guitar propped up in the corner. It's thin, blue, and intense-looking. It's got your name written all over it. Don't tell me it's some kind of weapon. It's a musical instrument. I understand if you've never seen an electric one, but you must have seen an acoustic guitar in the music room. Keep talking, though, and you'll soon see if it also works as a weapon. There you go, buddy. Yeah. You got to get to work. He's just looking around in a room. Never been in a girl's room before. Oh my god, look at this shit. Don't play the victim. Usually you're as oblivious as an old and deaf dog. What's got you worked up this time? It was Aoko who was oblivious for once. For his part, Sojiro could not figure out why he felt so restless earlier. Suffice it to say, they were both pretty clueless in this moment. Is it the way I decorated my room? My furniture is totally different to the stuff in the drawing room, so I understand if it seems a little weird. I brought everything from home except the bed. It's been 2 years since I moved here, but I still don't feel like me and my stuff belong in this big old house. Though she misunderstood the real reason for Sojiro's nervousness, as is usual for the two of them after the whole Kitsyland business, Aoko seemed satisfied that she had resolved Sojiro's anxiety for the time being and returned to her study. So are they just not going to talk about that whole thing? The confession, the way that she feels about him and the way that he feels about her, except he is like, I don't like you. Like, what makes you think that I've got these feelings for you? Blah, blah, blah. Something that, Tobimaru had told, Aoko. They're just not going to address this. Yeah, classic anime visual novel. They won't. Not yet. Not until it's relevant. She flipped through her notes and textbooks as if fast-forwarding a tape. There was no opening for an outsider like him to intrude on her high-speed study session. Repelled by her intensity, he retreated to his table. He was at least sensitive enough to pick up on her desire to be left alone. It was a testament to Sojiro that having his needs utterly ignored was now second nature to him, to the extent that he could now happily go about his business in solitude. Poor guy. Oh man, he deserves better. 2 hours, then as the clock neared 11, Aoko's speed and concentration began to slip, and Sojiro seized the moment to strike up a conversation. Talk to you for a minute. She doesn't want to talk to him, slower speed than before. How you and Alice have been acting at dinner is always like that. It's normal. Do we not look normal? I'm not sure. Girl, you live like this? At school, people seem to enjoy eating together, so I thought it was strange that the two of you don't look like you enjoy it. I thought maybe it's because of, me. Not because of you that we haven't been talking at mealtimes. We've never talked to each other during meals. Their relationship still is a bit of an enigma to me. I kind of get it. I understand that they're both from different families and here to hone their craft. I forget. I think it must have been explained, but I forget why she moved in the first place and why she's sort of like in here, as it were. But, I do understand why because they're like rivals. They really fought to the death at Kitsyland, but, obviously, Alice had to honor her word, or wanted to honor her word. And now they're kind of working together too. I mean, Aoko wasn't even supposed to be her family's mage in the first place, but that's neither here nor there. So, anyway, you get pretty tense in here. I thought you two were close friends. She was, however, surprised by the disappointed tone in which he made it. You're not wrong. It can get tense. I can't remember how many times she's put mescaline in your drink, and yesterday she was adding rowan to your salad. What the hell is that stuff? A bitter smile spread across her face in reminiscence. The pages of her textbook continued to turn. What is that? It's a hallucinogenic alkaloid produced by the peyote cactus. I'm assuming it's more than just your average hallucinogen if Alice is using it, though. And I'm done with that. She slammed shut her 4th textbook of the night. In 2 hours? Jesus Christ. Finally turned to face him. Now it's time to put you to work. Still almost fainted when I saw your scores. Modern lit, geography, math, electronics. If you don't get up your grades over the next 2 days, your winter break is as good as gone. And that'll be more of a problem for me than you. I disagree. I think it'll be worse. Going to school during the break would not work out for me. Sojiro calmly corrected her. For you, if you have to go to school over the break, what do you think will happen to me? All she could think about, as much as she tried not to, was Mr. Yamashito and his annoying grin. I cannot allow any student to fail every single class. Not on my watch. If I could beat good grades out of you, I would. Lucky for you, you have extenuating circumstances, shall we say. So I'll give you a pass just this once. A good all-nighter is usually enough for me to prepare for exams, so it shouldn't take too long to get you up to speed either. Oh boy. He did not think he needed her meddling in his studies. Which of us do you think is going to have the harder time of it, me or you? Sojiro got the feeling that it would be him, but he nodded slowly nonetheless. Then again, it would probably take more effort on her part than on his, and in any case, he knew there was no way to talk her out of it. I feel bad for making you do this. Sojiro summarily bowed his head to show gratitude and willingness to work. Good, and don't worry, I'm not a demon like they say. Less than average marks. It's still pass, you'll probably be able to go to bed by 3. Damn, I mean, I feel that. It was like that in high school, I understand. He had plenty of obstacles ahead of him, but that sense of humility might be enough to see him through. What was I thinking? I can't afford to be this soft on you. Let me be straight about this temporary arrangement. It's not every day I offer private one-on-one lessons like this. This is beyond rare, an exception among exceptions. And don't you go forgetting that. She spoke more to convince herself than him, but his expression still darkened. It made one want to hang a sign around his neck that read, "Please take me home," like an abandoned pet. Ako chided herself for being so soft. For some reason in that moment, she recalled that it had been raining that day, or the day they met each other. Oops. Time passed like the falling grains of an hourglass. Finished. Alko squinted as light poured through the window and she downed another cup of tea. She had lost count of exactly how many she had drank long ago. And it only took the whole night, eh, Alzaki? Sojiro picked up on what she left unspoken. Alko had used all her pep in staying up all night, but also in shouting at him. He looked pale and uncomfortable, just as he had all night long. I underestimated you, Sojiro Shizuki. Come on, Alzaki, you know I get weirded out when you compliment me. No, you deserve a pat on the head. She was at the end of her rope, but she could not help the bit of pride that swelled up in her. His lack of even the most basic comprehension was shocking, even taking into account his upbringing in the wilderness. His ability was that of a middle school student, and that was being generous. Preparing him for exams by teaching him new concepts and ideas was a waste of time. Rote memorization was his only hope for passing. Everything he memorized could collapse like a house of cards afterwards for all she cared, so long as he remembered for his exams. Assuming he had the capacity to be a good student in the first place had been her mistake. It took all night to cover the content for just 4 exams, and she still did not feel confident he could apply what he so earnestly tried to memorize. I appreciate your effort, but you just take too long to memorize new information. Come on, go easy on me. I'm used to learning things with my body, not my head. Ako let out an exasperated sigh. Naturally, physical prowess mattered more in mountain life than the intellectual kind, but still. Whatever, at least now you should do well enough to satisfy Yamashito. Mind making some more tea? Sojiro stood up and obeyed, as Ako stretched her aching back. He'd apparently bought the tea bags in bulk, so there were still plenty to use. Good grief, this is so wasteful, he spoke under his breath so she wouldn't hear. It made him somehow happy to see her so tired and unfocused after the grueling all-night lesson she had given him. It did not cross his mind that the excess tea bags, far from being an indulgent purchase, were purchased intentionally to sustain them through the night. A relaxed expression came across Ako's face as she watched him, naive and peaceful as could be. Not bad, but I should teach him how to make it from tea leaves instead. Seeming to have overheard her not-so-inner monologue, Sojiro made to face her. Does it really make a difference? Big time. Alice is the one who's really picky about her tea. How are things going between you two? Now covered with textbooks and scribbled notes, Sojiro watched her with a hint of resentment in his eyes. We only ever see each other at dinner, and you know how that goes. Honestly, I don't know why I should bother getting along with her. Really? It's just me thinking you'd have lots of motivation to play nice. It's not like you're scared of her, for one. Plus, she's looking for any reason to kick you out. Sounds like a great reason to make nice if you ask me. Are you sure about that? Because to me, it feels a lot like me and you before everything at the amusement park. How is that a good reason? My point is, there's no hostility between you, right? That's true. The amusement park sort of gave us a marked dynamic shift for these two. There's a lot more respect, a lot more camaraderie, I guess I would say, friendliness, teasing and banter, and she actually cares about him, like she does. She does. She respects him for what he's done for her and like the way that he treated her, especially in a life and death situation. I mean, when you get pushed to your limits like that and you get brought within an inch of death, multiple times over, not even just the one time. Especially for somebody who's trying to kill you. I mean, it's exactly what he said. You show enough goodwill to someone, and even no matter how much they hate you, eventually, possibly, most certainly, they must feel obligated to reciprocate somehow. But anyway, there's no hostility between you, right? It's a one-sided relationship, but that's not actually bad considering this is Alice we're talking about. You have a chance as long as she hasn't found a reason to off you. She's usually quick to respond to hostility, and it's her enemies that usually end up destroying themselves. Her ominous words only confused him. It's actually pretty simple. Oh, except... Wait, what did that say? Whether or not he could put it into practice was another story altogether. Sounds difficult. Yeah. I'm gonna drink some coffee. I still don't know her at all. The problem is my knowledge of Alice Kuonji ends with her name. He followed Aoko's lead and took a sip of his own. His cup contained not tea, but plain hot water. Would you like me to tell you a bit about her? Aoko scrutinized him carefully as she sat. Most boys would have been captivated by her gaze in that moment. No, I think I should ask her myself. But he ignored her and stared straight ahead as if speaking directly to Alice herself. Fine, you really want to do this her way, don't you? Speaking of which, what exactly did you say to her in the guest room? I know she and I have an agreement, but I've never known her to just ignore a visitor for half a day. He thought back to that moment. He could recall only 2 or 3 words he had exchanged with Alice after awakening in the guest room. He did not recall the conversation being anything special, but he could not bring himself to casually share it with Aoko now. After all, hey, what did you say that had such an effect on her? Aoko eagerly pressed him for answers. Unsure of what to say, he did not know what the interaction had been like for Alice, but for him, it had felt special, sacred almost. The question was, why and for whom was he so concerned? Ora! Come on, just tell me. I can tell you're just dying to let it out. Her disconcerting smile moved even closer. Sojiro did not look like he was able to stay silent much longer, as he would eventually come to realize. Aoko Ozaki had a sometimes troubling propensity to gossip. I can't tell you what we talked about, but I will say that she wasn't as flirtatious as the way you are right now. After I restricted you earlier, I didn't realize you had such a friendly side. He stared directly into her eyes as she spoke. Oh, look at her. She got it. Aoko nearly leapt out of her seat in a panic. Now that he pointed out, she realized their bodies were practically touching. I was just using the most effective way to break you, of course. Tsundere. And besides, the moment you leave my side, all hell seems to break loose. Aoko stood up as she lashed back at him. You got me there. I haven't felt so focused in years. Too bad this was just an exception among exceptions. Well, look at you, Sojiro. Before you know it, you'll be acing your exams and your relationship with Alice. I will, Aozaki. Don't you worry. His cool response caught her off guard, and for a moment she was at a loss for words. She meant it sarcastically, and yet he responded with a warm smile. That's our boy. That's my king amongst men. I'm gonna change my strategy. The first step, engage her directly. You can't stay mad forever, as they say. Aoko remained in a state of silent shock as he spoke and rose to his feet. She could not help but feel a reluctant respect for what seemed to be his newfound confidence and competence. I'll go home by myself today and speak to Alice. You have a student council meeting after class, right? He was right. It was their last meeting before winter break. Normally, he would have waited until the meeting ended or else gone straight to his part-time job. This was part of Aoko's plan to make sure he and Alice were never alone in the mansion together. You're planning to face Alice by yourself? You make it sound like we're gonna get into a fight. I wouldn't stand a chance, you know that. His reply made complete sense, which floored her. Even I can see that things only get more messy when you're around, Aozaki. That's why I'd appreciate it if you take your time with Tobimaru today. Oh, wait, what'd you say? Are you serious? He felt like he was being tested, but nodded nonchalantly nonetheless. Knowing how grave the situation really was, Aoko was not sure how to respond to his apparent lack of concern. The morning light coming through the window marked a stark contrast between the two. Which stood bathed in light, which lurked in darkness. That went without saying. The silence lasted for only a brief moment. Staring at him gravely, she said, Fine, then I won't stop you. That was all she had. Her dry tone hid the significance of their pregnant silence, not revealing the slightest sign of discord. Are you sure you're not angry, Ozaki? Yes, I'm sure, but do you have some kind of plan? You need a good plan of attack with her, you know. Sojiro furrowed his brow in deep thought. He knew it would be hard to get close to her through talk alone. In fact, it felt nearly impossible. Gifts work where words fail. My man! He's taken the advice of his dumb friend. Kinome had been the voice of wisdom and folly for him countless times in the past. Incidentally, Kinome had been referring to Aoko at the time he shared that pearl of wisdom, but Sojiro had the distinct impression that trying to buy Ozaki's kindness with gifts would not end well. I don't know what kind of stuff Alice is into. We probably have almost nothing in common. Sojiro crosses his arms at a loss. In other words, you haven't got any plan. As usual. Right. But I don't want to overthink this too much either. It's not like I'm going to explain things to her and then she'll suddenly understand. I mean, he pondered intently as he tried to put his vague thoughts into something concrete, but he did not spend much time in thought. With a nod, he concluded, what's more important is whether I like her or not, right? He articulated that which is often so hard to say, which with surprising clarity and calm. It was certainly a prerequisite for the task he hoped to achieve. He had no hope of making her appreciate him with words or with acts of giving with the expectation of reciprocation. He simply wished to get to know her better because he liked her. That was his honest, uncontrived intention, and it reflected the purity of his heart. But whether that was in his best interest or not was another story altogether. Calculation and compromise, selfishness and conflict. Purity such as his often irritated people who believed that morals went against human nature. Or rather, people who were inevitably forced to believe it. Haoko silently walked away without responding to what Sojiro said. Her long hair swung from side to side as she passed him. Noting her strangely cold manner, he called out to her. However, she was already opening the door to leave. I'm going to take a shower downstairs. You can go back to your room. Her words lacked any expressive inflection. In his confusion, all he could do was nod. You're not mad? Yet, it was not the typical irritated look to which he had grown so accustomed. I guess I might be what someone like you would call mad. I'd rather not discuss the reason why, though. Poor Sojiro did not even realize that he himself was the reason. She looked at him, and for an instant he witnessed an emotion on her face of which he had never seen the likes before. See you. This might be the last time we meet, so I should say goodbye. You take Alice far too lightly, you know. For you, that's a strength, but for us, it's pure poison. The door slammed shut, loudly shut behind her. Her steps were audible. She walked away on the other side of the wall. Aoko seemed perfectly comfortable in the freezing corridor. Wait, why am I leaving first? This is all backward. It's my room. You go first. Aoko promptly kicked Sojiro out of her room. Look at her. Once again, the wooden door closed with a slam. The corridor was not as cold as he had expected. Not quite as bad as a freezer, at least. Okay, so again, you guys need to tell me if I'm wrong. All right? The implication that I'm getting is that she's jealous now of the way that he's like acting and like how forward, because you know his like interactions with her, like the special interactions that they had, it was very much like it was special to her, it was unique to her, and he was all kind of hers essentially. Now she has to share as it stands, and that's really interesting because it's an emotion that he has never seen on her before. Anyway, back to the mansion. Oh wait, what did that say? People in town called it not a hill, but a mountain. Over 20 minutes to climb. Yeah, the road was paved, and the canopy overhead let in plenty of sunlight to guide the way. None of the inclines were especially steep, and no animals lurked in the underbrush. There was no chance of losing his way. No reason to worry about getting lost. I'm still complaining. Sojiro quietly reprimanded himself for getting so wrapped up in his own little world. In the past few weeks since moving here, he had been constantly comparing the town with his former mountain home. Normally, he would not get upset over it, but in recent days, since meeting Aoko, as it happened, he had become rather hung up on the differences. The reasons for this eluded him, but he knew that Aoko was a force that could not be stopped. This naturally made him want to quicken his own pace. The mansion where they both lived was the antipathy of her lively personality. It stood out like a sore thumb, even in a town like Misaki. Some people said it was haunted. There were no ghosts per se, but it was inhabited by magicians, so their claims were closer to the truth than they could have possibly known. Between ghosts and magicians, which one would be more surprising? Lost in contemplation as he was, the boy failed to notice how his own lack of familiarity with city life played into the equation. In any case, none of his pondering changed what needed to be done. Tomorrow was the last day of exams. That meant he only had a little longer until Aoko stopped taking responsibility for his safety. If possible, today was going to be the day when the mansion's owner accepted his continued residence there. All right, big guy. Get in there. Get in there. Come on, here goes. Expecting to find Alice in the drawing room? No. Face to face with the most unexpected scene. Yeah, he's in the foyer. The foyer of the mansion was like a hall in a medieval castle. Yes. Okay. Oh! Oh, whoa! The wooden tile smelled of the outdoors, and there was Alice, dressed all in black, huddled against a column so enormous it resembled a sharply cornered tree trunk. Whoa, what? The mansion was quite literally supporting her frail body, like a mother's lullaby or a gently rocking cradle. The heavy atmosphere within this old building suppressed even the slightest stir, almost as if warding away any disturbance to her slumber. Hi, Alice. What's going on with you? There she slept in the shadows of home, hidden away from outsiders. Her sleeping figure was enough to mesmerize anyone who laid eyes upon her. Sojiro instinctively looked up at the ceiling out of sheer awkwardness. Yeah, because you don't want to watch somebody sleep. I mean, come on. So when people are vulnerable, and you don't want to, intrude on that. He wanted to surprise her, but not in this way. No, this is a bad idea. Her slender frame lay asleep by the fireplace. The scene was as beautiful as a painting, yet hard on his heart at the same time. Her slumber seemed breathless. She was too still, with not even a hint of movement, and yet, slumped against that frigid column under the cold winter sky, happiness appeared to be her blanket. A passerby would not be blamed for thinking she was in that most peaceful state of eternal slumber. Death. Tick. She gonna wake up? She must be pretty cold. Sojiro spoke to himself as he gazed idly upon her. Bringing her a blanket or something warm did not so much as cross the boy's mind. Instead, odd as it sounds, the first thing he thought to do was to go prepare some tea. He made sure to be as quiet as possible as he opened the drawing room door. On the table waiting for him were 3 pills. They were the medicine Naoko required him to take every day when he arrived home. Gulping down the vaguely sweet pills and continuing on to the kitchen, he selected a box of tea from among the many in the cabinet and brewed enough for 2 people. Alice was still asleep when he returned. Not making any noise, he crouched. How cold the floor felt through his pants. Oh god, I got chills thinking about, sitting down like that. He thought it would be warmer here by the fireplace, but then again, he recalled how Aoko had referred to it as a useless hole in the wall. What was likely the case was that neither she nor Alice knew how to use it properly. Full tea set and biscuits! Look at this guy! Breakfast in bed! After taking the teacups from the tray and placing one in front of each of them, Sojiro carefully pulled his textbook on classic literature from his satchel. I better get to work, or Alzaki will get mad at me again. He could still see her angry face from this morning. The reason for her anger was still as much a mystery as the unusual look he saw briefly come across her face. In any case, one thing was certain, he needed to start studying for tomorrow. Thanks to Aoko's instruction, today's exams went well enough, but tomorrow's would be an even more formidable challenge. After how angry she was this morning, he could not expect her to help him again tonight. Which means I'll probably do poorly and then she'll get mad at me again. Not that my grades have anything to do with her in the first place, he complained under his breath as he cracked open his textbook. Apparently, he intended to spend his time in this fashion until Alice finally awoke. The sound of the pages turning was the only audible noise in the grand hall. There was no ticking of clocks or rustling of leaves to disturb her sleep. After a few hours, Sojiro quietly rose to his feet. The light that filled the foyer was beginning to turn from white to red. Time to go to work. He glanced again at Alice as he stretched his stiff back. She slept in perfect stillness, just as she had this entire time. Sojiro arched his brow in speculation. He had no idea what a normal sleeping schedule was like, so he had no idea as to whether he should wake her. Never mind. Azaki will be home soon anyway. She'll be fine. As if reaching the end of a long train of thought, Sojiro gave a quick nod of his head and took his leave of the mansion. Today, work was a shift at the Chinese restaurant in Misaki Shopping Center District, the Mad Bear. Nice. Off to the races we go. To the homies and the fellas. Their uniforms had been made by someone with an obvious preference for garish colors. The orange apron was emblazoned with a cartoonish polar bear slashing a walk in two with its powerful claws. The design resembled warning signs about wild animals seen in the mountains and stood out in Misaki for its one-of-a-kind originality. This was the Chinese restaurant, the Mad Bear. Aside from its name and logo, the restaurant was the type of cheap, hole-in-the-wall dive that could be found anywhere. It faced competition from the ever-increasing number of chain restaurants, though it had managed to last longer than the other dining spots, having received rave reviews on a regular basis. The Mad Bear prioritized the personal touch, focusing on its local clientele, and thus made a point to offer home delivery. It had earned the affectionate moniker KQS. No, wait, QKS. Yes, the Quick Killer Stop. Making these delivers was Sojiro's responsibility for the time being. Places in Misaki within cycling distance fell under his domain. Anything beyond that was handled by a more experienced staff member on the legendary 50cc King Salmon motorbike. But anyway, you'll never guess what a buddy in Yashirogi told me. When delivery workers were not out on deliveries, they spent their shift bussing tables or washing dishes. The dinner rush was yet to come, and Sojiro and his fellow delivery boys were shooting the breeze while washing dishes in the back. Yo, Shizuki. I'm listening, Kinomi, I'm listening. The two were elbow deep in a giant sink as they enthusiastically scrubbed. At least, that was what they pretended to do while they gossiped. He said it's not just the Japanese place, you know. Kenya? Here at Imperial Metropolis, and Mesai and here in Misaki got orders too. I mean, if you want that much meat, just go to Shitaichi. Man, who the heck orders raw meat and an entire salmon? I tell ya, there's some weird shit going on in that place, for real. Maybe they have a pet alligator or something. I've definitely never heard of an order like that before. What's an alligator? An alligator's an alligator, dude. You've never really seen one? I mean, I've never actually seen one in real life either, but even I know what an alligator is. You know what? I'll lend you my tape of the world's most terrifying animals episode on Africa. This was a familiar pattern of conversation between the two, especially now Kinomi was used to Sojiro's lack of general knowledge. Alright, phone call, address. Avoid making eye contact. Nobody wanted to go out for a delivery on a cold day. Get out there, Shizuki. Cold day. Unfazed by staff's laziness. Here's the order. It's an unusual one. Keep it to yourself. The manager tore the sheet with the order and address written on it from his memo pad. So, is it to his house? Sojiro took one look at it before a grimace quietly spread across his face. Boss? The manager stared right back at him as if he could tell what it was he wanted to say. Look, I know what you're thinking, but I've been in this business a long time, and this is far from the strangest thing I've seen. No big deal. Now help me get the stuff from the cold storage. Sojiro stared in admiration as the manager, dressed in black, marched out of the kitchen in his all-business way. Nowhere was free from the odd occurrence now and then. So what is it? What's weird? You're late. Oh, it was after 10 at night. Sojiro taking a small detour on his way home from work. Oh, I thought it was... Dang it. Dang it. I thought it was... Aw, he did not know why she was angry, but he could... Jesus Christ. I don't know why she's angry. She's just angry all the time at me. I don't know. Did something happen? He set down the cardboard box he had been carrying in his arms and glanced toward the fireplace. The sleeping girl was there no more. You arrived after curfew. You've got no clue why I'm angry. Come with me to the drawing room. She walked briskly to the other room without pausing, leaving Sojiro standing in confusion, head tilted to one side. Time to follow eagerly. Removed his coat. Alice is locked away in her room. On the table were the familiar pills. It's partly my fault for not being more clear about this, but you need to come home on time. Your curfew exists for a reason. Alko handed him the pills and a glass of water with an expectant look on her face. But I already took the pills before I went out. I feel fine anyway. I don't think I need any more pills today. Excuse me. You think this has anything to do with how you feel? Let's get real. These pills that you take every day when you come home, they're poison. Slow-acting poison, mind. And they take half a day to kick in. If you don't take more pills before that happens, the older poison will kill you. This is how much rope Alice is willing to give you. Get it? So drink up. I'm enjoying this just about as much as you are. And until I think of a way around it, you're going to have to deal with it. Maybe I misheard you for a second. Did you say that these pills I've been taking this whole time are actually bad for me? And then he took them. The fact that it was poison gave him no pause at all. And as for his roommate's tyrannical behavior, he showed no signs of standing up to it. Using poison to cancel poison. You two are really taking the old-fashioned approach, huh? Sojiro's face relaxed into a smile upon finding the funny side of the situation. Alko was utterly dumbfounded, as is usual, as to how he could be happy at a time like this. I was running late on the way home because I dropped by my old apartment to get all my stuff. You gotta try calling me if it was such a big deal, you know? Your stuff? Wait, is that everything? Sojiro nodded emphatically as she pointed incredulously at the cardboard box in his hands. Look at him! No thoughts behind those black eyes! Look at him! It's stupid to pay rent when I don't even live there, so I thought I should move everything out. But I arranged it so I can go back anytime within the next 3 months. Rent? Oh, right. How could I forget? I'm sure Alice will be thrilled to hear about this. A smile blossomed across her face, as they say. It was the open, bold-faced look of a child who just came up with a mischievous plan. Sojiro shook with fear at the thought of what that smile might bring his way. You sure don't have much? That one cardboard box contains all your worldly possessions? This is a lot to me. Is Alice upstairs? She just went to her room, although she stayed at the dinner table longer than usual. I guess she got tired of waiting. She gave Sojiro a meaningful look while continuing to smile that sinister smile. Waiting for what? Punish whoever decided to use the last of her Fauchon and blue calico. Why do I know that name? I think Fauchon is that brand of tea I used. It sure is. To be honest, even I was shocked when I first walked in. I know how she falls asleep all over the mansion, but I've never seen her prepare tea first. I woke her up to see if she was okay, and she was just as surprised as I was. We couldn't imagine who would do such a thing. Sojiro clapped his hands together as if remembering something important. He had forgotten to clean up the tea before leaving. The regret written from forehead to chin delighted Aoko immensely. How mad was she? Pretty mad. Robin was all aflutter about it too. Well, I'm mad at myself too, if that helps. I can't believe I forgot to take them back to the kitchen. Sojiro harshly scolded himself for his failure. No, dummy, she's mad at you because you sat and watched her sleep. Oh. I didn't think she would mind all that much. Well, we do mind when you watch us sleep, just so you know. Aoko's glare was enough to make glass shatter. There was an indescribable intensity in the way she said that. You mean it's a personal pet peeve for you and Alice? No, it's common sense. If you go around assuming that other people feel the same way as you, you're asking for trouble. Huh. But isn't it kind of her fault for falling asleep in the foyer in the first place? It would be stranger if I saw her like that and didn't want to look out for her. Look, I appreciate that's what you thought, but you just have to understand that that's how the lady of the house is. While you live here, responsibility for any and all mistakes or bad judgment on your part will be laid at your feet and your feet alone. You get what I'm trying to say here? Aoko's question sent Sojiro into a trance of deep thought until finally he uttered. So in other words, I'm in Alice's kingdom now. Yes, congratulations, although technically this kingdom belongs to both me and her, which means what we say goes. She smiled as she spoke and plopped herself down on the sofa. Sojiro remained standing behind the sofa, opposite her, as he ran over their conversation again and again in his head. The notion of this being their kingdom made him realize he actually had no idea where the girls had come from or their family's background. Where are your parents, Ozaki? He inadvertently blurted out, this being the question foremost on his mind. They're alive and well. They own a place in Tokawa, 4 stops from Misaki. I learned everything I know from my grandfather, who's retired now and lives with them. Huh. Sounds like a pretty normal family. Sojiro had imagined something more outrageous for a family of magicians. Sure, as far as my parents go. My father sucked as a mage. My grandfather says it skipped a generation, so I get double the power, but I'm not so sure about that. I think Alice has more the type of family you're imagining. She's from England, you know. Aoko offered nothing more, as if to suggest that that was as far as she was willing to reveal for now. Sojiro insisted on talking to Alice directly rather than hearing things secondhand, so chose not to go back on his word by pushing the topic further. Ask her if you want to know more. Now you know why she loves English blends of tea so much. Speaking of which, why did you use tea leaves today of all days? You should have stuck to the tea bags. But you said the leaves taste better, and also that Alice is picky about her tea. Aoko was, again, at a loss for words. He seemed so oblivious most of the time, but apparently he was attentive to some details, at least selectively. Just forget it. Anyway, think you can make it home by yourself tomorrow? They accepted my proposal for a mochi-making festival in the new year, so I'll be pretty busy with that. Alright, buddy. Oh wait, what was that? In fact, he'd already been planning to do so before she even asked. You haven't even slept since yesterday. 3-hour nap earlier, I'll be fine. What about you for that matter? I hope you didn't forget about our session tonight. All night cramming. Likely to struggle, given that he had not slept a wink. Yeah. All I could do was give a relieved smile. He thought back to the days just after he transferred here when she watched his every move from the sidelines and showed a startling amount of concern for him. Oh, sorry. I didn't forget, and besides, it's tougher on you than me, Ozaki. I'm still glad to be your exception among exceptions. His cheery response grated at her. Just a little. Wow, you managed to forget everything except the most irritating little details, don't you? She heaved her shoulders in exasperation and dropped her head as an excuse to look away from the beaming smile on his face. I love these two. Great dynamic. Good fun for everybody involved. Fun for the whole family, some might say. I know I definitely say it. And yeah, the last day of finals ended without a hitch. That final December hurdle was finally a thing of the past for all but one student. To Sojiro, the greatest challenge was yet to come. Alright. All jittery with excitement for the last day of term and headed into the Shido Inuzuka. Jesus Christ. Shido Inuzuka woods. All right. Yeah. He's got to talk to her. Okay. But that's all the time that we have for today. This game, this visual novel is goofy. There's so much description, and I love the writing. Like, it's fun. The translation or the localization is good, but like, also, the relationships are fun. I don't got much else to say. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I definitely did, and I will see you guys in the next video. So for now, have a good rest of your day, and I will see you soon. Bye.